Ascent kids, happy Sunday. We're so glad you're here with us this morning. This is week 3 of Easy as ABC.
So last week we learned about how there's this thing called sin inside all of us, like the yuckiness. And I was thinking back after watching last week about how when I was a kid, there were things that I did, still do things right now as an adult I probably shouldn't do. But when I was a kid, probably more than I like to admit, I would destroy my brother's Lego sets. I'm sure you guys never do anything like that. My older brother loved Legos. And I would go into his room feeling a little sneaky, and I would, just take him apart a little bit. And when he found out, and he was mad, I didn't own it. I didn't acknowledge that I did it. I actually blamed our little brother.
Oh no.
That was the yuckiness inside of me that caused me to kind of do something that brought someone else pain.
But you know what, Kayla? Everyone does stuff like that. And how cool is it that Jesus came to take away all of our sin and forgive us?
That is exactly what we're talking about today. We're talking about how Jesus came. He washed away our sin so that we could be in a relationship with him and God again, despite all of the yuckiness inside of us. So let's talk about that. What did that look like? What did he do? And how does that change things for us?
Awesome. We're so excited you're here. Enjoy this morning's lesson.
Hi, Ascent kids. I'm Greta.
Ready? 3. Ready? So, hi, Ascent kids.
Hi, Ascent kids. I'm Greta. And I'm Simon. And we're the Lilstroms. Welcome to our house.
He's the one who makes the sun shine. He's the one who puts the moon in the sky. He's the one.
is beaten, you have rescued me. Sing it out, Jesus is alive. The empty cross, the empty grave, life eternal, you have won the day. Shout it out, Jesus is alive. He's alive. Oh, happy day, when you wash my sin away. Oh, happy day, I'll never be the same. Forever I am changed. When I stand in that place, free at last, meeting face to face, I am yours, Jesus, you are mine. Endless joy and perfect peace, earthly pain finally will cease. Celebrate, Jesus is alive. He's alive. Oh, happy day, when you wash my sin away. Oh, happy day, I'll never be the same. Forever I am changed. And oh, what a glorious day, what a glorious way, my Lord, that you have saved me. And oh, what a glorious day, what a glorious name, Jesus. Oh, happy day, you wash my sin away. Oh, happy day, I'll never be the same. Oh, happy day, when you wash my sin away. Oh, happy day, I'll never be the same. No, forever I am changed. Forever I am changed.
Today's memory verse is John 4:19. We love because he first loved us.
Hey guys, okay, so today we're talking about Jesus, all things Jesus. So we've learned that God created the world because he loves you and wanted a perfect relationship with you. So we also learned that Adam and Eve made a decision that affected all of us because of their sin and the yuckiness in their heart that caused them to disobey God. And that tore apart that relationship. Well, now we're talking about Jesus. Who's Jesus? So Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus is kind of God himself who came down from heaven because he wasn't happy having this distance between him and us because of sin. So he came down as Jesus, as a baby, to save us and rescue us. So Jesus started a baby, very cute, probably like rattles and goos and gauze, just like all the things babies like. But he grew up to be a man who truly loved people. And he came to love you and to love me. And so we're going to learn more about who this Jesus was and what he did because he loved us so much. Not only did he perform miracles and he became friends with so many people, but he gave the ultimate sacrifice for us. He gave his life. And because he died on the cross and he took on all of our sin on that cross, that fixed all of our relationship with God. That made it so that we could be with God again. all because of Jesus. He came down and he did that for us. Can you imagine that? Is there anybody in your life that you would die for because you love them so much? I love my dog a lot. Like, she's probably my best friend, but I would never die for her. That's crazy, crazy love. Jesus came to rescue us and to love us and to save us, but he also came to be our friend. He came to show us how to live. He came to show us how to love each other better. And he showed us how we could be in relationship with him through prayer, through how we treat other people, through reading the Bible, through worshiping him. There's so many ways that we can love God and Jesus after we make that decision. And it's really, really exciting. So let's look more into the life of Jesus and what that means for you and for me and him and our friendship all together.
God's story, Jesus' rescue. So part of God's story is about Jesus' rescue, and it begins like this. Remember how God told Adam not to eat from one tree in the Garden of Eden? God said, if you eat its fruit, you're sure to die. Unfortunately, Adam and Eve chose to disobey God. And that's when death and all the wrong things in the world began. Adam and Eve eventually died. And everyone who disobeys God, which is all of us, deserves the same punishment. But God loves us so much, he decided to rescue us by getting rid of death so we could be close to him forever again. He did it through his son, Jesus. It was a battle of death versus Jesus. And don't worry, kids, Jesus wins. First, Jesus had to meet death, which means he had to become a man and suffer and die like us, even though he had never done anything wrong. He did that. Then, 3 days after he died, some women who were friends with Jesus went to visit his grave. When they got there, the tomb was wide open and angels were standing nearby. One of them said, "He is risen." Right away, the women ran to tell Jesus' other disciples that the angel had said Jesus was alive. But their words sounded like nonsense. Imagine telling someone that pigs were flying or a frog had turned into a prince. They probably wouldn't believe you. Those things just don't happen. Anyway, crazy as it sounded, Jesus really was alive. And some people saw him and started to believe it. Like Mary Magdalene. When Mary first saw Jesus, she was crying and didn't recognize him. He said, "Why are you crying?" Mary replied, "They've taken my Lord away." Then Jesus said, "Mary." When he called her by name, Mary realized it was Jesus. Then Jesus showed up to two men who were headed to a place called Emmaus. They didn't recognize him at first either, and started telling him how sad they were about Jesus. They were pretty surprised when they suddenly realized that they were talking to Jesus. After the men understood he was alive, Jesus disappeared from their sight. Immediately, the same men went to find Jesus' other disciples, who were meeting in a room. While the men were announcing the good news, Jesus appeared in the room too. His disciples thought he was a ghost, but he wasn't. He showed them his scars and ate with them. They realized it really was Jesus. Jesus would appear to more than 500 people over the next 40 days, so there were plenty of people who knew the truth. Then Jesus went back to heaven by rising into the sky. People watched him until he was hidden by a cloud. Then two men in white appeared and said, "Jesus has been taken from you into heaven, but someday he will return from heaven in the same way you saw him go." Since Jesus took the punishment that we deserve, now nothing stands in between us and God. Anybody can become a part of God's family if we choose to believe that Jesus beat death and decide to follow him. Even though we still have to live in this world where we suffer and die, like Jesus did, the best part is we can follow him and be a part of his story right now. And he's preparing a perfect home for his family to live in forever. And that's the story of Jesus' rescue. So, in case you missed it, here's the quick version. Adam and Eve disobeyed. They had to die. We all do wrong things. We deserve death. God rescued us. Jesus took our punishment. Jesus beat death. He went to heaven. We can be a part of God's family. And all that is a part of God's story.
Hey guys, it's time for story time. Today we're going to read from one of our different children's Bibles. This one's called Jesus Calling Bible Storybook. So if you have it at home, you guys can follow along with us on page 214. This one's called Good Friday. People didn't understand. Jesus was God's perfect son, sent to the earth to save them from their sins. The leaders brought him to the Roman governor, who put Jesus on trial. Many people were against him. "Crucify them," they shouted. "Kill him, nail his hands and feet to a big wooden cross." Jesus didn't deserve this. He had spent his time on earth loving and caring about people, helping them to know about his Father in heaven and telling them the right way to live so they could one day join him there. Dying on a cross like a criminal was a sad but very important part of God's big plan, and Jesus would do it. He wasn't a criminal, but he would die like one. The soldiers built a heavy wooden cross and nailed a sign to it that said, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." Then they marched Jesus through the streets. They made him go up a hill to a place called the Skull, and then they nailed Jesus to the cross. They also crucified 2 criminals with him, one on his right and one on his left. It was so painful, but still Jesus prayed, "Father, forgive these people, they don't understand." "Why don't you save yourself?" someone laughed. And of course, Jesus could have saved himself if he wanted to. A crew of angels would have rushed down from heaven to rescue him if he had asked. But instead, Jesus chose to stay there on the cross and die to save all those who believe in him. No one could ever love as much as Jesus. Then it happened. God poured all of his people's sin in the past, now, and forever into Jesus' heart. "Father," Jesus cried, "don't leave me." But God had to turn away from all the sin. And Jesus felt all the dirt of the sin and all the anger of his Father that came with it. But it wasn't his sin, it was ours. Jesus felt it and suffered for it so that we wouldn't have to. Right then, at that very minute, the world changed forever. Now God's people had hope. By asking God's forgiveness for their sins and believing in what Jesus had done for them, their hearts could be made clean and they could live in God's perfect heaven forever. At noon, an eerie dark cloud filled the sky and hid the sun. Powerful lightning and thunder jerked across the sky. God's mighty anger at sin came down. The earth shook furiously. Huge rocks shattered and split. The sky swirled with dark, scary colors. "Father, I give you my life," Jesus said. Then he looked up toward heaven and cried out, "It is finished." And he died. And it was finished. Jesus had done it. He had taken on himself God the Father's anger and the punishment that was meant for his children to save us from our sin.
Oh, hi there. I'm Greta, and I go to Anfield Middle School. I'm in 8th grade, and we're doing school online. And I'm doing school in my room. Hi, I'm Simon, and I go to Lafayette Elementary, and I'm in 4th grade. I do online learning at my kitchen table. And this is where I do PE.
All right, guys, so a couple of weeks ago, Pastor Bill and I brought these backpacks to church, and they all need to be filled. They need to be filled for kids who are going into foster care. You might not know, but in our community, there's a lot of kids who either don't have a safe place to live, or their mom and dad might be sick or in trouble, and so they go into what's called a foster home. Foster home just means a temporary place for them to stay. But sometimes they get moved so quickly that they don't have anything with them. They don't have luggage, they don't have their best teddy bear or any of those things. So we get to help them. So we're not gonna fill these with school supplies, but we're gonna fill them with things that will help the foster kids feel at home and feel safe. So there's a list in here. You can fill it with stuffies, you can fill it with toothbrushes, whatever it is. But we're gonna do this for 2 more weeks. All of these ones are full, but we still have probably 30 backpacks that need to be filled. Do you guys think you can do this? So email Britt at Ascent CC or tell your mom and dad to come by church and you can pick up a backpack to fill as a family. It's gonna be so good. Thanks for loving our community with us, guys. Isn't Jesus' love for us so cool?
It's so cool. I love today's story.
I do too. You guys, we're so glad you came and spent the morning with us, and we cannot wait until next week where we talk more about Jesus' love for you and me and Miss Britt.
Awesome. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for spending your Sunday with us. I hope you have a good time.